All right, let's move right along. We're to be talking about the Trail Center land. Carter, you want to update us? Oh, hey, sorry, that's right. It's that land.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Good to see you tonight. The Trail Center land discussion, as we last left it, council gave some feedback and direction as it relates to amending the map. We took back those suggestions, and indeed, our representative that we've been working with, Mr. Schlager, made those amendments and submitted a new draft, if you will, and we should have included that in your packet for you to review. And as near as I can tell, it's very consistent with what you proposed. And we bring that forward tonight to see if you have any other suggestions and determine whether or not you're ready to see a resolution to the effect of what you see on your chart. And as well as with respect to the direction to us and to the community, of course, that would suggest that the property that you have removed from that original scope would not be used or made available for private development. And so we're hopeful to include that language in the resolution that we need to pass through you ultimately as well. And so with that, that's kind of where we're at. And so if you have any questions or feedback or other direction, we'd be happy to take it. Thank you. I appreciate it. And there's the exhibit right there.
So,
go ahead.
I'm curious, so is there any price tag attached, what BLM's talking about, or?
Mr. Mayor, very good question. If I may approach the screen here, I'll show you what we have in mind here. What we need to do as far as the next step goes, and the resolution is a critical element in ushering in that next step, is passing a resolution that says this piece here is what it is that we need to take to an appraisal process.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be until that appraisal process is completed that we would know what that price tag is.
Okay.
And that is all consistent with the agreement that we entered into with the Conservation Trust 2 years ago now. Is that right? Probably?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
close to, yeah.
So that would be right on track. And the answer is we don't have a price tag yet.
Okay. And a follow-up. So I'm very happy with the new boundaries. Just to make that perfectly clear. And I think it makes a lot better sense to me on all of that. So my next question would be on the resolution that you talked about on, so if somebody, if we want to better develop the parking in that area, is that going to be allowable within the confines of the resolution? And then my last question would be on that corner, right there, the curved corner going into Events Drive.
Right
if
here, right?
a private, right, yep, exactly, thank you. So if a private foundation came along, just like the statute of that, I think Mick, and that's out by the Hat 6 truck stop that's always been in question. If somebody, another statute wanted to be commissioned and built, would that be allowable within the confines of the easement or conservatory here by a private group donated to the city of Casper?
Mr. Mayor, the short answer that I would say is yes. And the reason that I would say that is because the city will still own that property and will get to determine how it's used. The reason I asked for the information that would be new to the resolution in terms of private development and so forth is because, number one, I think that's what I heard you say last time we talked about that corner or this whole area in question. And number two, we get a lot of calls about that subject property. And again, to be super clear, we get a lot of calls about this from private developers who would like to see that be a hotel or commercial use
Truck stop.
or truck stop. And I want it to be super clear to the public that the council's view is that it's not for sale, so to speak. And so, but I do think that allows you to do what you will with it, which would include allowing the trail center to use it for exhibition purposes and that kind of thing. They just wouldn't own it.
Yeah. Or the foundation.
Or the foundation, absolutely.
Other questions, clarifications? Yeah, Michael.
Carter, I just want to make sure I understand. I think I have this right about on the resolution. And you mentioned the market appraisal, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so and I just want to make sure I'm understanding that in the sale between sale arrangement between two government entities, so to speak, between BLM and the city, for example, it doesn't go out for a public bid. It's still appraised in terms of fair market value, but only for the purpose of the sale to and the exchange between the two government. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, you're hitting the nail on the head. Part of the agreement requires what they call a yellow book appraisal, which is parlance used by the federal government for the benchmark of information that they require in order for a transaction with another government in their minds to take place. And so the answer is yes. And those are the steps that we would, pursue.
Go through. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could
Yeah, you
just add, Council, that's absolutely correct. Our initial discussions with the Conservation Trust or Foundation? Trust. They sometimes act as an intermediary for sales to the BLM.
Who does that?
That's the Conservation Trust that is helping to facilitate this. Now, in the event that title would be transferred from the city to the trust and then to the BLM, that does kind of implicate state statutes and the necessity in that event to go out to bid. So we talked about that early on when we first entered into this. And so if we continue to move forward, the idea would be to do it directly, and then all of that applies. If we had to have an intermediary, then we would have to do some type of bidding, and then they understand that completely. It was built into our original agreement, and so we would absolutely work to stay in compliance with any legal requirements.
Okay, thank you. And can I ask another question about? It's not related to this, but it's another property question. Is that about the property we listed, the Stone Ridge? It's not, like I said, it's not related to this. Would you rather I ask that later?
Mr. Mayor, I guess I would say if it's dramatically unrelated, maybe we could take it up offline.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Sure.
For sure.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just
That's
understanding
okay with you?
that process. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay. Carter, you need direction from us to
Yes,
approve,
please.
to say move forward with this?
That would be great.
Okay. How does council feel about moving forward with this version? Okay. Sounds good.
We shall do so. Thank you. We'll prepare a resolution probably for the 5th.
Great.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Carter.
much. You betcha. Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to the pedestrian bridge design. Some updates on this and information. So Carter.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. This is the opportunity to get sort of a status update as it relates to the design of the pedestrian bridge. This is the one that is adjacent to the Poplar Street Bridge, spanning the river, and connecting, of course, strategic pathway areas in that area. Jonah Bank area is where you should imagine this taking place, okay? We wanted to sort of unveil the design and let you see it and ask questions and those kinds of things. We have obviously a representative from our consultant helping us with this design. And Mr. Brower is going to come up as well to walk us through this aspect of the project with a representative from his team as well. So if I could defer to Mr. Brower, please.
Tom.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Excited to be here tonight. This is a really fun project, and with me I have Ray Kedler with CEPI, and then Max virtually. Max is the architect that we've been working with on this bridge, and I thought it was important to give you a little bit of history of how we ended up here. You know, as you know, YDOT for, I don't know, 6-7 years has been planning on replacing the Poplar Street Bridge. And they designed that bridge a couple different times and bid it out 2 different times, and it came in grossly over budget. The city of Casper has water and sewer that hangs off of that bridge. There's a sewer force main, and is it a 12-inch water line or 2 water mains? 2 water mains that are hanging off that bridge. So again, it's very important to us from a utility standpoint. The other one, that bridge is not safe at all for a pedestrian because there's no sidewalk. There's no true pedestrian lane across that bridge. And so when this project bid both times and came in over budget, just the cost for us to put utilities on this bridge was over $5 million. So from those 2 bid lettings, to put those 2 water lines, or actually it was going to be 1 in the end, and then a sewer force main, it was over $5 million to put it on top of this bridge. At that point, predates when it came to the city, you know, YDOT and the city and CEPI were talking about, wow, maybe we just need to do a separate bridge for the utilities. And so lo and behold, in all this process, I go to work for the city, in this Wyoming outdoor recreation grant came along. And these are for qualified census tracts. So it's very limited areas in the state. And this was also leftover ARPA money. So it was kind of fell in that category of use it or lose it. And so help with Jolene, with Alex, we all kind of put our brains together and said, hey, we got $3.5 million possible for this bridge. We know we have aging utility infrastructure that we need to replace. YDOT's talking about kicking that project down the road 10 or 12 years is the last time I heard. And I was like, we can't wait 10 or 12 years for our utilities on the bridge. So it was kind of the perfect storm where it came together, where we said, hey, can we build a bridge here that's really a pedestrian bridge? Because we think it provides safer pedestrian passage. So instead of having a 5-foot sidewalk that's left next to 4 lanes of traffic in each direction at 40 miles an hour, we have a bridge that's just slightly offset, that's on the trail system, that's on the pathway system. If you work at Dairy Queen or Burger King, that you can walk there, and we can provide safe pedestrian access. And the added benefit is we can have a platform for which to attach our water and sewer to. And if and when there's a problem in the future, it's much easier to repair because we're not doing it in the middle of 4 lanes of traffic. We're doing it on a pedestrian bridge that we can just shut down completely if and when we need to repair those. And so the really great part, I'm tickled, CEPI has been very passionate about this project, and they've come up with a really great idea for a bridge design here. I'll tell you, some of my influence from the beginning, and Jolene was right on board with me, is we really wanted this to be, you know, a focal point. We saw it as a real opportunity with the grant funding that's available to make this a real destination. I know from my wife serving on the symphony board for years that Wine on the River was always there, and I always saw this as a really cool opportunity. And I've always thought it'd be cool if we had a pier kind of on the North Platte River, somewhere that was a bit of a gathering place. So the intent of this bridge is for it to be 20 foot wide as designed now, so it's wide enough where you can have kind of small events on there, but it also serves as a pedestrian bridge. And lo and behold, it can save us money from hanging $5 million worth of utilities on a whiteout bridge. The budget for this project right now includes that $3.5 million grant, $2 million in sewer funding, and isn't that right? What, $2 million in water funding, I'm sorry, and roughly $250,000 in sewer funding. And so we have $5.75 million for this project right now. And so at this point, if there's any questions about the utilities and some of that, we could, but I'm just really excited to turn this over to Max because he's got kind of a virtual walkthrough on this bridge. And again, our focal point was a couple things. Make it a real a welcome to Casper type of piece, something that's a cool focal point. On top of that, make it a really functional bridge. So the other one I might do is I might turn the lights down a little bit so we can see.
We can do that here.
Okay, or yeah, right there. I think we can keep them on over the council. Yeah, it might show up a little better, and then turn it over to Max and let him kind of do a virtual walkthrough for you guys. Max, it's all yours. Can you hear us?
Yes. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I think you can all hear me, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. And then you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick little sort of image presentation, and then what we can do a little bit of a live walkthrough. I kind of want to introduce the project, sort of really what it would look like in its place. The walkthrough is going to be a little bit more of a preliminary sort of site design, but these images are going to be really what it looks like now, if it was installed today. So what we heard when we started this project and when I worked with Ray was really about, we wanted a bridge here that was a gateway. It was more than just a crossing. It was really about a signature for Casper. It was something that people could see and recognize, and it could become a place and destination in itself rather than really just a crossing. So we really wanted to make something that was unique to Casper and really represented quite a bit of the community and the area, especially in the natural area. So we're going to walk through the option that we worked on. And we decided to go for an arch bridge, which really represented a lot of beauty in the area. And we're going to say that it's a single asymmetric arch. And we'll talk about that in a second, why we did that. So this is the option that we're looking for. So right now we're seeing this really elegant tube steel arch that ends in these two anchor blocks. These anchor blocks become opportunities for seating. It creates an opportunity for gathering. Then we have the cables supporting the bridge, and these become asymmetrical because they're going at different angles, again, mimicking sort of that idea of the mountains in the background. But then here's the view from the bridge next to it. Here's the trail accessing it. So then we'll go through another view. Here's another angle of it. You can see how those cables start crisscrossing, really representing that triangulation that we see in the mountain ranges. We have this anchor block and how that accesses the site, right? So it becomes a very welcoming bridge, and we'll see a view on top of it so you can see how wide it is. All right, so this is what we're looking at. So this would be crossing, and this is where we see that asymmetric idea. You'll see in the walkthrough later on, but that arch actually starts on one side of the bridge and it ends on the other. So it creates a little bit of a play as you walk through. So it's not just this arch that goes right down the center. It actually turns as you cross it, even though the path is straight. So here we would be walking through the cables, which is a really nice experience. You kind of feel enveloped, you feel inside of a space. And here on the arch, the other nice thing is that we would have an opportunity to use lighting for the actual deck. So we'll see some lighting, some aesthetic lighting for the bridge in just a moment. But here we would be able to have, let's say, spotlights. If there was opportunities for shows or concerts on the bridge or just activities, we could actually have that lighting shining on the deck. That could be really powerful. And then we're going to turn one more. All right, so this is what we'd be looking at in terms of aesthetic lighting. Right here, we'd be able to really light up that bridge on the site, really see what that could look like. And this is just white light. We would be able to do colorful lighting. We could have color changing if we wanted to. We could celebrate 4th of July. We could celebrate or recognize Breast Cancer Awareness Week with the pink. So there's a lot of opportunities that we've done quite a bit before, and we've already started thinking about where we would put those light fixtures to get the biggest impact. And here's another view right there. Right? So this here within the community, there's that pedestrian bridge there. All right. So I'm going to actually close this one out. We're going to, oops, let me see. There we go. Okay. So then we're going to go on a little bit of a walkthrough. So let me just give 1 second to load back up. There we go. Okay. So here's the bridge, right? So here we're going to actually walk through it, and we're kind of going to look at those little elements. So it's more than just pictures. Now we actually get to walk it. So this is what we were talking about. These anchor blocks are necessary for the arch because of the amount of thrust power that it has, but how can we make it more than just a piece of concrete? Here we create an opportunity for seating and gathering, right? So it becomes a monument within the bridge itself. And here there's all kinds of opportunities. We could have a plaque on the back. We could have elements that tie into this. And it also becomes an area where we can install some of the aesthetic lighting on top of it. Crossing the bridge, right? We can see the width of it. So even if we had an event here and all that, there's still opportunities for people to be able to cross. And we can see that arch sort of going from one side to the other. And again, we have that same block on the other side for gathering. So if we back up and really see what that looks like, that canted arch. All right, so we can see how it starts and ends on opposite sides of the bridge, right? Creating this really nice effect, just enough to make it dynamic and different. And then we look at those cables, they're going on opposite directions, creating that crisscross, again, adding interest and making that bridge a lot more dynamic. So I am more than happy to answer any questions. I believe Ray and I would be ready, and we can walk through, we can go a little bit closer, we can do things, but we really wanted to show you all what this bridge could look like, and we're really excited for it, and the opportunities that we have here. But I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Yeah, you bet, Tom.
Mayor, councilors, one thing I'd like to add is one of the things we observed when we looked at Whiteout when they bid their bridge, one of the big cost items, and we know it's affected Whiteout when I'm doing the Poplar Street project, was digging out in the river. All that soil is contaminated, and therefore all the groundwater you pump is contaminated. And so when we started this process, we were like, hey, we've got to have a free span bridge. We can't have a bridge that has supports that are out in the middle of the river, because that's really going to drive the cost up. And so even though this is aesthetic, that arch absolutely has a function. I'm not trying to pretend to be a structural engineer, but it is functional. It's supporting it, and it's what allows us to have a free span bridge of this length. If we went with a more conventional bridge, it would have to be really tall, where you'll think of the lattice of a conventional kind of bridge. It would have to be really tall to support the span, and that really cool, exciting arch does have a structural function as well to allow us to have that span. And I can tell you, when we did soil borings on both sides of the river, lo and behold, a lot of contaminated soil. And so, you know, ultimately treatment of that soil is BP's responsibility. Our responsibility will be to dig it out, take it to a location for them to handle that material. And again, we've been very sensitive to that and how we design the bridge abutments and how we're going to design the bridge abutments so they don't require a whole bunch of soil removal and they don't require dewatering if at all possible. The easiest answer there is driven piles. We don't see a whole lot of piles driven in Wyoming, but again, it's very functional because you don't have to dig holes. You literally drive those structural members down that this bridge would bear on. So hats off to the architect, structural engineers. We've got Ryman as the construction manager at risk on board for this project. You know, we've tried to make sure that we cover everything and again, make the project a reality.
Any questions from the council to Max or Tom or Ray? Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I have two questions. Tom, you mentioned that, or in the memo, it says about the $3.5 million grant, and then you mentioned some additional funding for a total cost of, I think, a little over $5 million total for the bridge construction. Is that correct?
Mayor, councilor, that's correct.
Okay.
$2 million in water fund and $250,000 in sewer fund to pay for, you know, and as we get cost estimates, we can try and refine those. But right now in the budget, we have $5.75 million for this bridge.
Okay, thank you. Which are pretty much designated funds. They're not. It's not like we could, because of the function of the bridge. In other words, we're not taking from the general fund to fund this project. I guess is what I want to be clear about. Is it's funding that's coming for very specific purposes, with the bridge will help to meet.
Mayor, councilor, you're exactly 100% on board, on right. Because again, and I've asked Ray, I said, we need to have a cost. This is, if we were just, a utility bridge is a much different item. There's a couple of them in town that are just really ugly and you can walk across, but they're unsafe, but they just hold pipes. And so I said, we need to know what the cost is just to put the pipes across the river. And that's how much the utilities need to pay for the bridge. And then the cost for the bridge. And again, our target has been from the beginning is to get that built with this $3.5 million of grant funding. and maximize the use of that to provide, you know, what we think is great benefit to the community.
Thank you. And my second question, if I can, sorry, Kyle. So you may have already answered it, but I'm just interested in like the cost savings between hanging it on the Whiteout Bridge versus this option. It sounds like there's quite a savings there in terms of the cost, because you mentioned about where the cost is coming from, those earmarked funds. So.
Mayor, Councilor, that's correct. Again, we know from the project bidding 2 times, I don't have those numbers committed to memory how much that was. We have to parse them out of the bid. It's a unit price bid, but you know, I remember vividly when this project bid, because it was like over twice what the city of Casper had budgeted for water and sewer to hang those utilities on the bridge. And I do know that it was over $5 million.
On the Whiteout
Bridge.
Much
And
cheaper
so,
to hang it on this.
so yeah, we're like, hey, if we can do this for appreciably less than 5 million, it's money saving. On top of that, we get pedestrians to a safer location, and we put those utilities on a bridge that gives us access and control over if we ever need, when we need to maintain those utilities.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Bond sort of asked adjacent questions to what I was originally going to ask. And I think I got most of what I was looking for, but for further clarification, Tom, do you mind? It sounds like we had determined we got bids for $5 million to attach it to the Whiteout Bridge. I thought I heard you say that if we were to just hang a utility bridge in the same area, our own creation, it would cost approximately the 2.25 million that we expect to use from the water and sewer fund. Is that correct?
Mayor, councilors, I do not know yet. I just was talking to Ray yesterday on my road trip to Cheyenne for a TAP grant meeting, and I told him, I said, I really need to have a definitive cost estimate for what it costs just to put a utility bridge in there. Is that something? I apologize, I don't have that for you tonight, but you know, if I had to guess based upon the Whiteout number, you know, it's $3 million range. So it's just, I saw it as kind of the perfect storm where all these things, the $3.5 million grant was available. We needed a pedestrian bridge, we needed utilities, we had the utility funds, and it was a great collision of things that presented this opportunity to build, again, what I think is a focal point for a gateway in the community.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Mayor. And sorry, I haven't acknowledged Ray. You're just kind of standing up there waiting for us to throw you something, so.
Fine, I was hoping that Tom would just.
Appreciate you joining us. My question, I guess, I don't think it'll be for Max. I love the design. It's a very pretty bridge. My question is whether, what I'm trying to drill down to is this, like the economical option? Is this kind of a mid-tier option? Is this kind of premium? Like, were there different kind of designs considered? And where did this one rank in it? I appreciate your context about the arch, providing the structural support so as to avoid digging into the river bed and stuff. That all makes total sense to me. And so I'm just trying to understand, you know, I guess, what iteration of design is this? Is there a cheaper option that serves the functional purpose but maybe looks a little bit less pretty? And the reason I ask is just because, you know, I think we need to be very acute and aware of the, you know, optics of, you know, being fiscally responsible and creating this functionary piece, but also, you know, not going above and beyond what its intended purpose is, if that makes sense. Sorry, felt a little rambly there, but.
Mayor, Councilor, I understand exactly what you're saying. We started out with 6 different options. You know, we kind of gave Max, CEPI gave Max a lot of latitude to look at some different options. And when I looked at all 6, I was like, I love all these. And you know, and it's like picking your favorite color or picking your favorite, picking a great restaurant, a great meal. You know, it's very challenging to pick that. And when we drilled down, we really focused on, let's focus on what is our right of way. What can we build within this right of way? Because some of the options extended beyond the right of way. And we said, that's going to be problematic because we got a short fuse on this money. We need to spend it by the end of next calendar year. Then we also said, hey, let's not get too crazy with 2 arches, and because there were some pretty funky designs. And so we picked what we thought was the most cost-effective option. I will tell you, I think if we abandoned the whole idea of it being an aesthetic bridge and went with a more conventional bridge structure, I think it could save us some money. Ultimately, kind of one of my targets is what kind of pedestrian bridge can we build for that $3.5 million? I guess it's never good to think about money as use it or lose it, but it was kind of that way where how can we get the biggest effect, the biggest bang for our buck out of this $3.5 million, but still have the responsibility of the community that we don't build a $6 million bridge where we're like, well, we got 3.5 and all we got to do is add 2.5 to it, you know, and again, that negates the utility component of it. That's just for the bridge. So we tried to be responsible, and I absolutely believe picked the most cost-effective option of the 6 that Max had. I think if we abandoned some architectural effects, you know, there could be some additional savings in there. My target has been, one of the reasons why we're doing a construction manager at risk is, you know, how much can we get for 3.5 million? Because that was the ARPA funding that's available. And let's utilize that to get the most benefit for the community.
Thanks, Tom. I got 2 more.
Oh, yeah.
No, go
We'll come
right
back to you. Yep. Thank you.
Tom, in the event that YDOT begins construction on their bridge in the next decade or whatever they've projected now, do we have cost to mitigate our existing utilities there, to mothball them, to decommission them? Would we expect a cost, or are we sort of out of that project now, and YDOT's just on their own to do whatever they got to do over there?
Mayor, Councilor, once we disconnect the utilities from that bridge and put them, you know, on this new bridge, the only way I could ever see where we would have any liability is if YDOT was in a position to rehab that bridge. But even then, I don't see a huge benefit to them to disconnect these utilities from their bridge. They've been on that bridge since it was constructed. And so again, I do not see any hanging liabilities or risks to the city. And again, ultimately, we get rid of the concern of having a 40-year-old water line attached to a bridge that does leak, that then we're in the precarious position of how do we repair said water line.
Any others? I'll go back to Kyle. Yep, Pat.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's beautiful. I mean, but in your opinion, not just me, but, and I'll throw this to Ray since he got all dressed up.
It's okay, you don't have to.
So, but, you know, is there another design that, which I'm just envisioning, another design would be all rusted out, galvanized, or, you know, pitted, and where this design looks nice and clean. But is there a different design look or element that would tie in closer? I don't know of any arch like that, with the exception of the, you know, the M building, which has got any kind of tie here in town. And then I've got a follow up to that. If this is it, then where all would the LED lights be positioned, both on the strands, on the tie downs, and
So I'll take the easy one first, and that's the lighting. Lighting can be almost anywhere with LEDs, you know, and it really just depends on budget. So lighting is an expensive part of this project, and there will be some sort of lighting on this bridge, you know, just for pedestrian safety. But the extent of the lighting is really what the budget allows, you know, whether it's on every strand or whether it's just on the top, just on the bottom. So you know, the world is your oyster when it comes to lighting on the bridge. When it comes to different design elements, like Tom said, we looked at 6 different designs, and the design team really tried to focus on the area, mountains, and I can let Max chime in here in a moment, but we looked at elements that captured Casper's wind, fly fishing, mountains, the river itself. But really what it kind of boiled down to was an economic option, you know, because there were some beautiful designs, even more, I wouldn't say more beautiful. This was my choice from the beginning, so I'm happy that it won out. But there was some designs that were just awesome, just really mind-blowing designs. And when it came down to constructability, it was, you know, this is going to be significantly more expensive. This is going to be harder to build. Can you find the skilled labor that can build a bridge like this, even in Denver, or are you looking at a major metropolitan area like a San Francisco or a Los Angeles sort of a thing, Chicago? That was where some of those options really weeded themselves out, and that's where we came to with this one. And like Max said, you're trying to capture the elements of the mountains with both the arch design with our more of our rolling mountains, and in your classic peak design with the crossing wires, and then I'll let Max really take some of his design question a little bit further. Max.
Yeah, no, and I mean, Ray, you did a fantastic job. But no, it really boiled down to aesthetics, but also constructability. We did look at a lot that were maybe a little bit more geared to the mountains, a little bit more geared to the existing, but then we looked at constructability, and yes, they did maybe have a more of a tie-in in terms of appearance, but in terms of constructability, it didn't fit with the local area. So we also looked at that in terms of the sustainability of how it fits within the site. That didn't work as well. And this arch bridge really came out as the one that did kind of check all the boxes. It really helped. I mean, when we talk about the utilities, one of the reasons why we went with that pipe, right? So we'll see that pipe on the arch, but then we also see the pipe as the structure that supports the bridge. Well, utilities are typically pipes as well. So then we tie that into the bridge, and then they all look the same. So it doesn't look like you designed this beautiful bridge and then you just plastered on a pipe on it. So now it actually looks integrated within the bridge as well. So there's a lot of little nuances that we did within this project to really tie it in. That's how I can say it sort of in a nutshell, but there was a lot that we took in. Now, if we wanted to play with materials, if we wanted to play with other elements, that is still obviously open. That's not a finished sort of idea that we have here in terms of material. There's opportunities on the railings. There's opportunities for the color of the cables. There's opportunities for the color of the actual arch. We did white, and we recommend white because if we are going to play with aesthetic lighting, white is the best. Just like a white canvas is a lot better to put color on, right? You don't get a canvas that's brown or black and then start putting color because it'll kind of mute some of those colors. By having a white bridge or a light colored bridge, then you can really play with colors. We are trying to light a building here that is brown. Blue doesn't work on brown. It just doesn't. And then we lose sort of that whole color threshold because of it. So we sort of recommended white, and then you can play with colors in the cables and the railings. We can even play on the deck. On this concrete deck, there's opportunities to do sanded concrete and actually have imprints and all that. So there's a lot of opportunities, and we allow the bridge to be the canvas, and everything else we can really tie in the community and the local area within the aesthetics.
Mayor, councilors, one other thing I think it's important to mention is, and that's the structural efficiency of an arch. That's why Quonset are built. When the military is putting up bases, they throw up Quonset because they're structurally incredibly efficient. So an arch is very, very efficient. That's why your propane tanks are round. That circle. All the forces radiate around perfectly tangential to the structure. So an arch is not an inefficient shape. Now, if we put something that went straight up and straight across like this, that's very inefficient because in the middle, it doesn't want to hold up at all. An arch is inherently an efficient structural shape.
Jenna, now I come to you, Kyle.
I just want to say I share your excitement 100% about this bridge. It's very, to me, elegant, very pleasing to the eye. The design is very functional. I love how everybody thought out every little detail and put that element of what the landscape is around us and considering our wind and durability and all of that. I see it definitely being an asset to the community and how it's used here. And I also see it bringing in and attracting a lot of tourism to Casper because of this. And to me, looking at being part of that art committee here, this falls in line with that too. Just about bringing that artistic design to Casper, that element where we're not just murals or sculptures, but we have another piece of art that we're bringing to the table for people to come and see, because that is, to me, important. Like this, it has vibes of like it's like Casper's Golden Gate, right? Or the St. Louis Arch. I mean, people go and travel to see those, that architectural design and structural design. So having that in Casper, I think is going to be unique and draw a lot of tourism from that too, as well as having events and being functional for our community needs. That being said, what is the timeline that you have for this? So where does that fall?
Mayor, Councilor, that's the very fun but scary part. We need to spend the money by the end of next calendar year.
Yep.
You know, I think we have a little more time. There's a little bit of squish in that grant funding, but yeah, that's why we hired a CMAR. That's why, you know, we envisioned, oh, do we have a public process? Do we show all 6 designs? Do we show this? We're like, no, we need to kind of mainstream this process with the most economical and reasonable bridge, but still provides that panache. And then we have to, and again, we want to build this bridge when the river's down. So,
yep.
You know, in a perfect world, we want to be pouring abutments or driving piles in October.
Kyle.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Tom. Panache. It's a good one. I'm hoping once we lose Carter, you'll fill in as our vocabulary.
Nice.
I'm gonna hate if I stop learning new
Bowing
words.
out. Maybe my wife, but I'm bowing out of it.
My question is, this is a great one-time opportunity to afford the construction of a great community asset. My question is, over the long term, what do you expect in way of maintenance? What sort of life cycle does a bridge like this have? What sort of investment in the future do you see? And how would you recommend we go about planning for that? Is it a, you know, we bake it into a long-term capital agenda? What does that look like?
Mayor, councilors, we have put a lot of thought into that. Now, realistically, I would like to think of this bridge as a 100-year bridge. I'm trying to think of some bridges in St. Louis that they recently shut down. I don't even know how old the arches are. I should maybe know that, but it's a long-term bridge. Concrete, the cabling, we've already talked about stainless steel. So the biggest item to recoat would be that arch. And again, the bridge is going to have structurally enough to support a vehicle. We need to, so we can maintain the water and sewer line, so we can plow snow and do that. And so the idea is you'd put a man lift out there to coat this. I like the idea of white for a color because there's no UV degradation. When you deal with color, we all know the person that paints their house very dark in the neighborhood is the first one that fades. So we'll be putting the highest quality epoxy paint we can on this. 30-year lifespan average for paint, and probably go 40. But yeah, there's going to be some long-term costs. I want to be really upfront and very honest about the lighting. I'm really dubious whether we have the money for lighting this bridge. I think we have the ability to build it, but we also recognize that I truly believe in the benefits and the opportunities for fundraising. I look at these 2 abutments as the perfect place to put plaques for fundraising when we talk about, hey, how do we light this bridge up? And we can light the bridge with a campaign where we get people that are interested in helping support that through donations. So again, I think there's a lot of opportunities there. I think hopefully it would be the same thing with possibly with maintaining it and coating it. But we've definitely gave a lot of thought because some of the other options were more maintenance intensive, and that was in the overall scheme of selecting this option, one of the components. Wasn't a top tier item, to be quite honest, but it was one of the considerations.
Thank you.
Another one.
One more, yeah. It's kind of in line with Councillor Jensen's timeline question. It sounds like this project, because of the need to expend the ARPA dollars by December 26th, would be very aggressive in its timeline. My understanding is we're currently doing like town halls for the pathway that this would presumably connect to on the south side. And so my question is, you know, at least as it sits currently, the south end of this bridge is going to terminate into an empty dirt field. What do you see as far as timeline with, you know, the pathway being built? When do you see those kind of projects kind of conjoining?
Mayor, Councilor, we got the pathway. It's funded, the pathway from Poplar Street that connects us, right? That project is funded. I can tell you from where I was yesterday, I have the joy of sitting on the TAP review committee for YDOT as WAM's representative. Carter helped me get involved with that. And Casper's project for TAP was one of the top review projects. So we're likely going to get funding that would complete the pathway and the river overlook that would complete the south side of the river for this bridge. So the connectivity of this bridge will be done along with the bridge. It will be connected to Poplar Street, and the complete connectivity will be done realistically within 18 months. So should coincide with this bridge. So I do not see us building a bridge and saying, oh, one of these days we'll be able to get off the gravel and get to that bridge.
You see them, you know, happening.
Pass.
All right, thank you.
The questions? Yeah, Amber. Oh, that's right. I have you written down here. Sorry.
It's okay. I have two questions, and I think you alluded to one of them. So talking about lighting, that's likely not outside of just, you know, minimal standard lighting that's not included in the $3.5 million budget that we have for this project for the bridge.
Yeah, Mayor, Councilor, yeah, we would need to provide a modest amount of lighting, you know, at each end and possibly some intermediate lighting. Absolutely, the planning and design for electrical across this bridge we see is critical. Because again, if it's going to be an event space, we need to make sure that we plan for the ability, if you're going to have a PA system there, that you have a way to plug it in, and that we're not rolling orange extension cords across our beautiful bridge.
I have a second question. I mean, that is I think that is a concern for me, is that we don't have, I mean, lighting, I guess, is not necessary, but also is kind of a central element of the impact of the bridge. And so, and it seems like the type of thing that would be a lot more expensive to add after the fact. So I have a little bit of worry there that it doesn't fit within the budget that we have. And I also wonder, I know we have a construction manager at risk. This also doesn't seem like the type of project that you could value engineer all that much, or phase, or do, should the cost come in higher than we expect. There's not really a way to cut costs out of this, I wouldn't think. So what do we do in that case?
Yeah, let me start off and then I'll let Ray chime in. First of all, the benefit of the CMAR is from the beginning, when we complete schematic design for this, we're going to have a cost estimate. Typically, you get a project completely designed, and along the way, you're praying that your architect or your civil engineer or whoever has a good idea what this thing costs. So we're going to get accurate cost estimates along the way. At that schematic design process, we can say, hey, let's evaluate this thing. What do drill piers cost? What do driven piles cost? What would a conventional foundation look like for this? What is readily available? I know the steel I-beams that are bent at CEPI, when I worked on that building and I built that, you know, I knew they had to come in because nobody else could roll it here. And so we looked at different options for that. Hey, could we use bar joist for that? I think the same thing could happen here. Where we could say, oh, we can't, you know, if we went from pipes to I-beams on these members that are on both sides of the bridge. So again, I think there's still great opportunities. And the nice part is we're going to get at least 3 snapshots along the way of what the cost is for this thing. At schematic design, design development, and construction documents. And the other thing I love about the CMAR process is you can try and utilize local resources. You know, people like Pepper Tank is our logical place, you know, to try and acquire the steel here. Now they need to be competitive in their bid, but it gives us, you know, a lot of opportunities there, and to even include them earlier on in the process to say, hey, this is the way. Hey guys, if you didn't do these welded, if you did them, these connections in this way, we could save you money. Still believe the process, even though this is a bridge, still opens a lot of doors for value engineering.
And then when it comes to lighting, we knew from the get-go that lighting in the full every bit of this lit up that Max has designed, that might be a stretch, but we're going to make provisions during construction so that when we come back, we can say, yes, we can just, plug and play. It's almost, you'd have to figure out ways to attach them and things like that, but that's part of the design. So we anticipate that it'll be designed to have the full spectrum of lighting that we can have on it. And then at some point along the way, whether there's funding at the beginning or funding comes down the road in 10 years, somebody can come back in and just literally plug in the lights and affix them to the cables, affix them to the top, and we'll be able to light it. So it would be nearly the same process that you would follow during construction, because lighting's last, right? So they code it, everything's done, and then the electricians would come in and hang the lights. So it's not that far out of, it wouldn't be a big pain to come back in later and attach any lighting.
Yeah, and to add just one more point, a lot of times the costs for lighting is actually the fixtures. Running the conduit for a bridge of this size would not be the big cost. It'd be the actual fixtures. So like Ray is saying, we could design it so that we know where the conduits are going to be, we know where it's going to be connected, and then later on, if it does get phased out, all it is we order the parts, we order the fixtures, and then we install the fixtures, because that's going to be the bigger cost anyways for the lighting aspect. And we've done this before. We have done this where we've put lighting off because that was just a bigger cost, and we had a donor that donated the lighting, and that came after the project. So we've done that a few times, and we've retrofitted bridges ourselves with new lighting from a design that existed before. So it's something that we've done quite a bit in the past.
I think we have time for a couple more questions. If anybody has, yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
Thanks, Mayor. Tom, can you please remind me, is there any match component to this ARPA funding? Or if we wanted to, in theory, would we be able to draw the $3.5 million grant, use it for a very pretty utility bridge with no city contribution, or is there a match component to accessing this grant?
I have to ask Jolene, yeah.
Mayor, Councilor, there is no match toward the recreational bridge fund. We did add a little bit of in-kind match that we had to it, but there was no requirement for a match. I believe it was like $200,000 that we added for that. I believe that's where the sewer money perhaps is coming in, and we did that to make the grant a little more competitive instead of having zero match. So in the scope of grants that we write, this was a phenomenal opportunity that Casper had. Very limited places in the state that could apply for this. We knew we needed the bridge. The state, parks people knew that we needed it, because we actually see people in wheelchairs trying to cross our Poplar Street Bridge, and we knew that we needed something. And I would say more, but there's no match requirement for this at all.
Mayor, Councilor, the other thing I would add to that is we cannot use this $3.5 million to build a utility bridge.
Thank you.
Jolene has been very sensitive to that from the beginning. This is a Wyoming outdoor recreation grant. It's not a Wyoming utility infrastructure grant. And so we're making sure that we justify that we're using that $3.5 million for a pedestrian bridge. And again, Whiteout's tickled. They love it, the idea that we've simplified their bridge. We've taken the proverbial monkey off of their back by handling the pedestrian. It's better for the pedestrians. It's better for the utilities, but there's no way I can even smear $1 of that 3.5 million and say, hey, you guys are going to pay for a gasket on a water line. That the 3.5 million needs to be used for the bridge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not a question, but I know we've talked and weighed back and forth. Does anybody actually try to walk that bridge? I was driving it today, and there was a man who looked like he had been golfing at Three Crowns and was walking against traffic, headed around the corner. So happened just today, and it was very nerve-wracking.
I tell you from our conversations with the TAP people yesterday and with YDOT last week, they're very concerned about that. They're tickled the idea this project's coming to get potential pedestrians off of that bridge. And again, proximity to that bridge is very important for pedestrians, just like pedestrian overpasses. People don't use them unless you force them to use them. This has to be close enough to where if it was an extra 10, 15-minute walk, People won't walk that 10 to 15 minutes. This thing's within eye shot. You know, it literally, the pathway runs that way. It's not a longer trip if you're going, you know, to your job at Dairy Queen to use this pedestrian bridge. That's a critical piece of how we fit this bridge in to make sure that it would be utilized by pedestrians.
I can tell you from my experience working on the first popular YDOT project, almost every time we were out there, you would see somebody walking across that bridge. And as part of the design on this project, I thought I was going to walk across that bridge to get some pictures, and I took about 3 steps out there, and nope, absolutely not. It was traffic is right there. There is no room to put a bike lane. There's no room to put anything. I mean, that bridge is just wide enough for the 4 lanes of traffic that are on it. It's frightening.
Okay. Everybody's asked all the questions once or twice. Pat.
Sorry. Why 20 feet wide?
Mayor, Councillor, that's money. My dream to begin with was 30 feet wide. And just because I had a vision of, you know, and I went and measured up all kinds of things, but it was really economy that drove that. It's like, how wide can we get it? You know, typically I would think these bridges would be a minimum of 12, maybe 15 feet wide. So 20 is wider than quote unquote normal. But, you know, 20 feet was really how much we thought we could afford and would still give us enough space where if you did have an event and some high top tables or whatever going on, you know, pedestrians could still pass.
All right. Thank you guys for the information. Max, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen. Ray, it's good to see you.
See you.
Mayor, if I could, Ray, thanks for your years of service on the school board. Yes, sir. So, read a lot of books. Appreciate your service.
All right, moving on. Hogadon rates and facility fees. Looks like we're going to be making an approval tonight.
So on the bridge, do we need to do a thumbs up?
No, it's just informational only.
Miss,
Bid or something.
right,
Yeah, down the road, it'll be a bid. Yeah, we'll be talking about contract.
excellent. Mr. Mayor, councilors, this is a return topic, if you will. Let's see, the last time we met, we took the direction to bring this discussion back to the council with some improved information that gave you a fiscal impact with regard to a couple of the recommendations that you had pertaining to the preseason ordering of adult passes, as well as changing the price from recommended price downward, if I remember correctly, for adult passes as well. We have some data put together in that respect, as well as you know, give the opportunity for further discussion, because we are hoping we can get your direction as it relates to how you would like to see the resolution in its design, in that we have historically used the resolution to set the threshold for the pro forma activity with each of the recreational enterprises, Hogadon, to be included in that as well. So if indeed council would like to see something different, that would be the kind of direction that we need this evening, which would be unlike what we've done with the other recreational assets and enterprises. To that extent, one of the things that I would suggest you think about, which was one of the points that I think we discussed last time, and that is with regard to the threshold that you have set via resolution for each of our recreational enterprises. You'll recall that Hogadon, which we will see here in a minute, has a recapture threshold of 60 to 65%. We are fortunate that we are, in the last couple of years anyway, performing above that threshold. And so our recapture threshold is doing well. And so ordinarily in that circumstance, sorry, Mr. Mayor, My proposal would be that we increase that threshold so that we reflect not only more closely with regard to what we're seeing by way of business activity, but so that we could also come closer to getting to a point of breaking even and not have to provide a subsidy, which at the heart of the business plan approach, that is the goal, to not have to provide a subsidy to these enterprises, if possible. And I think Hogadon is one of those enterprises where we may have a fighting chance over time and with the right goals being accomplished in the business plan to do that. And so I would also ask that you give a critical review to whether or not you think the threshold needs to be downgraded, which takes us further away from that subsidy recapture ultimate goal, if indeed you want to go that direction. And so a couple things to think about in that we could use some insight from you in those aspects of this discussion. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that would be my proposal.
Awesome.
We do have Mr. Brower here to present that information with the help of Ryan and Randy to close the loop on some of the questions that we were left with the last time we met.
We will have them come up.
Sure, yeah.
Share a little bit.
Your presentation, I think.
So, Mayor, before we go there, so on the cost recovery, so what is the goal? Maybe the memo states that, but I kind of lost track with all of this data.
That's okay. That's okay. Mr. Mayor, it's a great question. The goal is 60% or 65? 65. 60, okay, 60%. My suggestion would be that you could push that upward, given some of the business activity that we've had, albeit obviously still quite a distance from eliminating subsidy altogether.
Mayor, councilors, filling some big shoes here tonight. For Zalima, and I know the memo reflects the amount of data analytics that have gone in to staff's recommended rate analysis. And again, I know we've spent quite a bit of time meeting with Zalima and going over all this data, and we've looked historically at the number of passes that we have sold and how much we've seen in those past sales. And again, it was all based upon that 2023 decision that we wanted to have this business plan where we wanted to have 60% recovery. And in those meetings, we talked about challenging this to make that a 70% recovery. And so I'm not going to bore you by going through every single detail of the number of passes, but trying to summarize that and then address your questions. And so again, staff presented a proposed rate, and one of the biggest issues is getting rid of the preseason discount for passes. And one of the things that drives all the decisions here from looking at the data is the fact that this is a fairly inelastic market. Even though people can complain about the cost of skiing going up, especially as it relates to season passes, through all the data we have, it's fairly inelastic. If we dump the price of those passes down, we don't see a dramatic increase. If we raise the prices up, we don't see a dramatic decrease in the number of passes. And so, and I would reflect that the people that choose to have a season pass to ski here are like, hey, I live close here. In the absence of skiing here, it's quite a bit of a trip for me to go somewhere else. And so they kind of bite the proverbial bullet, and it's not an inexpensive activity. It's not an inexpensive activity. The other one that's interesting, even when you look at comparable rates, is the fact that some of these, even though Red Lodge is a really great facility, the fact that the population base that is immediately around there is much, much smaller. A lot of the people that are going to Red Lodge are traveling there. It's a vacation destination, and therefore they're probably not season pass holders. I'd argue people that live in Billings would have season passes and go to Red Lodge, but it's nothing like the facility you have here where we have a 70,000 people community with a ski facility that's literally 20 minutes away. And so that lends to that inelasticity in the market and the fact. And so staff saw this as an opportunity in trying to stretch that revenue to say, hey, let's get rid of the preseason discount. We're dealing in an inelastic market. Let's not give away a service that somebody is willing to pay for. So as I go through, if I look, the first attachment A, which is the one that's white and blue, you know, what I did is I highlighted in there, and that is, you know, the primary differences where we're talking about the preseason, where instead of paying $575 for a season pass, an adult would pay $450 for a season pass. So that was option number 2. Option number 2 was the options that were presented by council last Tuesday. Option 3 is what she's called a dynamic pricing. And that is basically providing a much higher rate on weekends than we do during weekdays for ticket prices. And so in that case, the dynamic one had that lowering down. So the youth season pass, that would go from $475 to $425. And the child season pass would go from $350 to $315. And then there was a discussion about that $10 reduction in rates. Ultimately, the thing that I think is most important to me is attachment B. And that is, we have a fairly inelastic market right up here, but where do we fit in our competitors? So when you look at all the competitors and you look at some of the key ones, and these are Antelope Butte and Shell, Metal Arc Ski Lodge, Pine Creek Ski Resort in Cokeville, Sleeping Giant in Cody, Snowy Range in Centennial, Snow King Resort in Jackson, and we can argue, hey, maybe that's a little bit of an outlier, but again, it certainly doesn't serve the population base that we do. White Pine Ski Resort in Pinedale, Red Lodge, and Terry Peak in Leeds, South Dakota. And so when you take the average of all of their season passes, they're at $1,564, with the high one being Snow King at $1,730. And some of them do not have family passes, and we're proposing $1,500. So again, I think we're right in the market. We're right in, the heart of where the market's at. And then when I look at season passes for an adult, again, everybody offers a season pass for adult. Looks like a low of $449 up to a high of just shy of $1,000 at Red Lodge, and we're proposing $575. So the average is $633. So again, we're even a little below average just for an adult season pass. For a season pass for youth, which is 13 to 18, the average is $476, with those ranging from the upper threes to almost $800. We're at $475. The average is $476. And the final one is season pass for child. And again, we have that at $350, and the average of those is $333. And then again, interesting enough, 70 plus, we're at $100, and the average is $371. So again, we're dealing with an inelastic market. We're not worried about losing a bunch of customers if we raise these rates. And B, where do we fit in the market? And we fit right about smack dab in the middle of the market. When we look at option 1, how much additional revenue does it bring in over what we did before? Option 1 is about $70,000 more. Option 2, which is the primary difference, is the early season discount, is about $43,000. The vast majority of that $27,000 is those early season discounts. So we're giving away $27,000. We're going to decide, is trying to give that discount, is that going to drive enough more revenue in? And we don't think it will. So that's what's $43,000. Option number 3 is only about $15,000 of additional revenue. So again, from a business plan model, when we look at it as a business, this is our market. Here's where our competitors are at. We're trying to maximize our revenue so we can increase our recovery rate above 60%. Staff's recommendation, my recommendation to you tonight on behalf of Zalima and the Parks and Rec Department, is that we stick with the staff recommendation and not offer the discount to people for the early season discount based upon those facts about the business market.
Questions? Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Tom, for that very succinct explanation. That was a very good summary. I think I'm in agreement with you and how you've represented staff's position on this. I think I stated in the last meeting that, when we're faced with budget shortfalls and having to be a little bit more selective about where we're spending our money, Hogadon, I think a lot of critics would point to as a perceived luxury. And so I do feel like the users need to shoulder more of the burden for the amenity that, they're using on a regular basis, as opposed to folks that maybe aren't. I know in the past we've talked about, I guess, how confident are you that the market is inelastic, as you said? I know we've made small rate adjustments in the past, and we have, as a council, discussed, the balance between how do you raise it just enough to increase revenues, but not drive out, not start bleeding and driving people out? And we haven't seen that in the past. At least from what I remember about our experience, the 5 years, 6 years I've been on council, is we keep creeping higher to the cost recovery goals. But it does concern me a little bit that of the adult season pass holders, it looks like of the 261 we had last season, 80% or so took advantage of the preseason rates as opposed to once the season had began. And so the preseason pass is going to increase roughly 50% for a single adult. And so I guess I'm looking for reassurance from you, Zulima, or other people that are have more intimate knowledge of the user base up there. How confident are you in its inelasticity? And is there any concern that a 50% increase for the folks that are used to buying the preseason adult passes, that's going to be the 50% increase is just, a bit too much. They won't bite the bullet in this case. Is there any concern about that?
Mayor, councilors, I would tell you I'm very confident, and it's based on one simple thing. I absolutely trust Zulima. And I trust her in her analysis of the data, and I believe she's taken a thorough look at it. I can tell you very honestly, I have not gone into a deep analytical dive into this data. In her numbers, that $70,000 number I presented, it includes an 8% demand destruction. So she's applied a factor in there already where she thinks there's going to be some demand destruction. I know from taking only a handful, I used to ski when I was younger. I've taken 3 or 4 trips up there since I've been in this position. There's an avid group of people. I see some people that I've known in this town forever that are up there skiing. When I go up there, and it's not been on a weekend, it's been on a weekday, and they're up there. So we have these avid skiers. And again, I know from being a skier before, skis were $450 in 1983. I can't imagine what they are today. So the idea of what these passes cost with these avid skiers, I believe that is an inelastic market. I do not believe that people will be like, well, I bought some new skis, but I'll be darned. I'm gonna go somewhere else. Because if I'm gonna go somewhere else, it's hours away. It's not minutes. I can't go to Douglas and skate on their sheet of ice. I'm literally driving hours to go there, and then I'm paying for a hotel. And I reflected when I first saw this, the family pass of $1,500. That wouldn't cover a family of 6 to drive to Jackson and stay 2 nights. Between the gasoline, the meals, and the hotel, you could not even get there, and yet your whole family can ski at Hogadon for an entire season. I know from previously season pass holders, it's a bit of crapshoot because of our weather when you buy a season pass, but buying it early doesn't make the chance of it snowing more occur. So I believe it's an inelastic market. I think she's accounted in here for some demand destruction, and I fully believe that, again, we have a requirement to drive forward and try and maximize this revenue and push that recovery threshold to 70% or higher.
Thank you. I appreciate the 8% demand destruction. It's good to know. Thanks, Tom.
Amber, I'll get you, Michael.
This might be for Randy or Ryan, but do we realize any advantage by knowing what our preseason numbers are in terms of planning, budgeting? Is there any advantage to us offering that discount, or is it purely just, I don't see much, I'm just trying to understand, like, what is the trade-off? Why the discount? Really, it doesn't help us do anything to justify, like, why we would say if you buy early, X, Y, or Z happens.
Mayor, councilor, from following this for quite a while, having some friends that are very avid skiers, I think we always put the preseason discount in there just because we thought, hey, it'll drive more sales.
Okay.
I really questioned that.
Yep.
I really question whether that assumption is correct based upon the zealousy of these skiers, the passion of them, and their desire to ski here. And so I think we've always done that. Now, without a doubt, it does stabilize our potential losses. We have a horrible winter. There's an argument to be made saying, let's try and sell 10,000 of them at $200 a piece in case we have a really horrible winter. The problem is there's not enough. It's an inelastic enough market. There's not 10,000 of them out there to sell at $200 a piece. And so we really have this market of people that are avid skiers that enjoy. And I've seen, it's funny, the people that I do see up there are always up there with their kids. because it's the time to have family time where, hey, I can go skiing with my kids. And again, it's pretty affordable, $1,500 at least as far as skiing goes to do that. So I don't believe that there is an advantage to offering that discount.
You might add a point. Just to be super clear too, the preseason purchase does not apply to the family pass purchase. It only applies to the individual passes that adults and children and youth buy.
Thanks.
Just to throw that out there.
Amber, do you have any follow-ups or anything?
Just thinking.
Come back to you. Brandy.
Interestingly enough, I didn't know that. As a family pass purchaser who only bought preseason because I thought I was saving money, my concern is we bought the preseason to save that money I wasn't saving. And we never used them any of those years because there was no snow. Had I not pre-purchased them to save that money, I would not have bought season tickets any of the seasons that we bought those family passes, because every time I did it, there was no snow. Every single time. I might be the reason there was no snow, you guys. But while I don't think it needs to be a big discount, I do think that a lot of us buy those passes at the discount, taking that gamble that there's going to be a great snow year or a snow year at all. And I do wonder if I were to have procrastinated and not bought that discounted family pass, I wouldn't have bought those passes at all, because those few years there was like no snow. I'm buying it in November, hoping we get snow, and then come January and the mountain's like, oh yeah, we decided we'd open because we got some snow now. I wouldn't have bought them at all. And I do wonder, especially when we have those high number of people that are buying them due to the preseason, it doesn't have to be a huge discount, but we do sometimes take that gamble just to save $50. And I do wonder if we're not going to lose them, because if I wait, the mountain doesn't close until January, am I going to bother? That's my one reason for advocating. I 100%, if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to buy it at whatever you decide to charge me. But I'm also totally going to be that person that'll buy it because I'm going to save $50, or think I'm saving something, as it turns out. That really hurt my heart, Carter.
I'm sorry. So I was just asking Carter, I'm sorry, Tom, I'm going to jump in. So if we do away with the discount, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I just wrote this down really sloppily, it would cost us $70,000. Is that what you were saying, Carter?
Well, let me get Tom to clarify that data real quickly, because we did run the numbers to try to understand that.
Yeah, I'd like to understand what the gain, cost benefit of
Absolutely.
both of those.
The additional revenue of option number one is $70,000, $748. The additional revenue from option number two is $43,500. So the delta there is, in round numbers, $27,000. Yeah. So 27, you're basically, by offering the discount, we're potentially losing $27,000 in additional revenue.
So I guess where I'm coming from is, if we're talking about cost recovery and we're trying to do those types of things, it makes sense to me. I hear everybody that is saying that we need the discount to remain, but I think if we're going to maintain and keep the level of cost recovery for what we're trying to do, especially with the way things are happening, tax revenue shortages, et cetera, it makes sense to me to maintain the staff proposal. That's just kind of where I was standing from. So, but I hear what you're saying, Randy. I got Mike, and then I'll get you. Okay.
I didn't have it. I was just.
Oh, you were just pointing. Okay, great. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't know if you could see.
So first off, on the last column over here to the right, facility fee / dynamic pricing only. So what is that actually saying? Because in the other columns, we're not taking into consideration, so family pass, $1,500. Okay. So plus 10% facility fee, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So what is the furthest right-hand columns actually saying?
It was my understanding from my conversation with Zalima that was dynamic pricing, where we would have higher costs, or President's Day, or weekend pricing. This attachment doesn't show that very clearly at all. I have to trust her data inside the more detailed spreadsheets that she's given you, that are the last two spreadsheets in your packet that show that dynamic pricing along with the facility fee results in about an additional $15,000 in revenue. I can tell you if I was presenting this from scratch for myself, I wouldn't have given you option 3. Because we're only at $15,000 in additional revenue. I don't think it achieves the goal of our business plan and our approach. Randy, chime in. Yeah, you can help me out.
So the facility fee would just be dynamic pricing only. There would be no fee increases at all. So it's showing the dynamic pricing, which is weekday and weekend rates, is their dynamic pricing, and then that include the and the facility and 10% on the facility fee. I would like to also mention that we in the Benny with our new POS system, you can do up to 4 payments on your purchasing of your tickets. So at $575, you still have 4 payments you can break it down to, which makes it very easy for and affordable.
Mr. Mayor, which is a new feature, by the way. The payment plan option has not been an option in the past, to be clear.
And we have also in the past, we have met our cost recovery goal by 63%. I believe we'll be about 62, 63 this year, and we've been running around 63, 64. 2023, when we had all the snow, we were up to 79% cost recovery. We are just basing everything on this fee, so I mean, we could have a banner year if we get snow early, because that's what everything's based upon. And a lot of these ski areas that do offer the preseason, it's because they're looking for operational and capital improvements that they have to do over the summer, and they have no other income coming in. So I can tell you, like even at golf, there's no preseason discounts up there. Country Club runs a preseason discount. They need the operational dollars in January, February, March, because they're not going to get their the bacon and eggs are coming May, June, July, and August, and then play falls off again. So that's why their preseason discounts come into effect a lot, just for private individuals just to raise cash to operate.
Got you. Follow up.
Yeah, a couple. So one question I've got is on, I don't see how school vouchers work. There's a lot of school groups that go up, including from the reservation, kids that come over, which I think one program you're involved in.
That's the ski school, yeah, but we do see a lot of school groups through the NCSD, through the school district, and it's their gym class, so I'm not quite sure exactly how that's paid for, but it's through the ski school.
That, is that revenue captured? Is that something we should talk to the school district in particular here about on pricing increase, or how does that work?
Mayor, Councilor, I do not have committed to memory what the school program is. I know we've worked very closely with the school district, again, during lower peak times, to offer discounts and offer programs for the Learn to Ski program. And maybe you guys could fill in a little more information about that. But again, we've worked with the school district on a program to try and encourage kids to ski. And again, let's be honest, part of that's a marketing plan. You teach kids how to ski, and the next year they want to go ski, and they're hitting mom and dad up to buy a season pass because they learned how to ski and they really love it. So again, that's an ongoing program where we work with them, offer some discounts. Same thing with the ski racers. There's some real benefits to us lighting that course to the racers. In turn, guess what? The racing programs have improved in Casper, and it's kept skiing alive as a high school sport. Every time a high school ski race occurs here, it brings in, I think if memory serves me correct, about $10,000 in pass revenue. That doesn't count the economic benefit to the community of umpteen racers from across the street coming to Casper that are staying in our hotels and eating in our restaurants. So above and beyond the dynamic pricing here, we've captured on 2 sheets all the different categories we have of rates. On top of that, there's all these multiple programs working with the ski racers, working with the schools. And I will tell you, I incredibly confident in Zalima's spreadsheets and analysis and the budgeting process that we have captured all that revenue in the data that you're looking at when we look at recovery.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I don't see it on any of the sheets, so that's just a question. So, and then another question that I was asked by one of the user groups. So I take it seriously on labor cost. So they have heard that 100% of Selena's wages and salary come all out of Hogan. And I said, I can't believe that. But perhaps one of the things they might be talking about is, you know, obviously we have folks that directly work up there, but then just like was brought up at Regional Water, you know, city council's on there, legal is on there, Carter is on there, in a percentage of those, and perhaps that's what they're talking about. So is that pertinent information? They're hearing one thing through the rumor mill, and is it just the opposite, like was proposed to Regional Water?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, thank you for bringing that up. I always appreciate the opportunity to debunk myth, if you will. And that would be one of them. We do not allocate Zulima's wages 100% to Hogan. No. We do appropriate a portion of her expenses to all of the rec enterprises. And, you know, like you see in Regional Water with respect to a small portion of me and the attorney and so on. But 100% to Hogan is absolutely false.
Yeah. And then last thing I've got that was brought to my attention is, you know, in the adult season pass purchase, their feeling is with lack of snow, their biggest benefit is when they travel to Jackson and say Snow King in particular, that reciprocal agreement makes it worth it to them in that case. They did ask about doing something more with park. I do not ski. You know, that would be a disaster waiting to happen. So for kids to advance their skills, what we have up there is my understanding is really not that good in where it's situated, evidently, like a terrain park that skiers could advance their skills with different jumps or whatever it would be. But have we looked at possibly doing something like that differently in order to keep the youth and advance the youth? And
Mayor, Council, so we have looked at expanding our train park. We've added, was it 2 new features last year, Ryan? Correct. So we added 2 new features last year. We're tried to get some time to expand it a little bit further. We're just limited, locked in on some stuff. Removal of the old ski lift takes up a good portion of some area that we need to remove. But we do keep on expanding. We're never going to be a terrain park feature like the larger areas. We're not going to have a half pipe. We're not going to have, we're not built for that. But we do offer up to an intermediate, beginner and intermediate, but we'll never be an advanced for terrain parks for snowboarding.
Anybody else? Questions? So the direction you're looking for is to the staff's recommendation to move forward with that? Is that what you're asking, Carter?
It's multifaceted, actually, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, not a problem, not a problem at all, absolutely. So fundamentally, at the heart of my request and need for direction would be, what do you want to see the resolution to look like? Certainly, there were some suggestions last week when we met that would, potentially be a part of the resolution if council would like to move those aspects forward in that way. And we can do that. So be thinking about that. However, what I also need is, are you comfortable moving the needle as it relates to the recapture goal? The resolution will be the perfect vehicle to do that. And as you know, they can go either way. It can drop below 60 or go above 60, depending on your feeling in that respect. And then finally, the facility fee. If council is still comfortable moving forward with the facility fee, without a doubt, the resolution will be an excellent vehicle to memorialize that as well as a feature for this operation moving forward.
So why don't we take that bit by bit? Is that okay, Carter?
Absolutely.
By saying, so let's start with the facility fee, which I think is something that we want to talk about. Is that something that, well, actually, let me back up. Maybe it's the cost recovery we want to look at first.
Sure.
What is everybody's feeling about the cost recovery that we're looking at? Are we looking at that 60% higher? I see the vice mayor putting his thumb up higher. Kyle, what do you think?
I mean, I think if we've been consistently hitting 60, we should be setting it to 70, a little more ambitious.
Other thoughts?
65. So
I saw 66 in here somewhere, didn't I?
66. Pat, go ahead.
So on Glenwoods this morning, the subject got brought up, in, Glenwoods' attitude was, if you can't sell it, close it down. I think that's absolutely idiotic. So on the cost recovery, we know there's, I think it's maybe not foolish, but I don't think you're ever gonna make it so it's a break-even type thing. It's a particular, facet, is it's been mentioned, it's kind of inelastic, but so the most I would go is say 65%. I don't think you accomplish anything by raising it to 70, 75%. And I'm grateful when you hit that, but I don't. That'd be my feeling. 65 would be.
I just have kind of a question. Pat maybe think of a question about that recovery. Is that inextricably tied to perhaps the replacement of the lift to drive up that to me, that's in my mind, I was thinking if we could get it above 70, that made more sense to me. If we can get to replacing the lift, if that helps us get to replacing that lift sooner, that would be my only rationale.
Carter, can you clarify that?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Counselor. The reality is, with the business plan for Hogan, just like the other business plans for the other recreational enterprises, there are a number of strategies that are incorporated in the plan that will help to grow the recovery opportunities. Without a doubt, having a new lift that enhances our ability to grow the recovery rate. And I agree, without the new lift, that takes out a vital part of the business plan, with the hopes of improving the recovery rate. But I would not say that a new lift is necessary for you to push the recovery rate to 65% as is being proposed right now. I think that is a very attainable rate of recovery without a new lift.
Okay, I guess what I want to make sure, what I'm kind of wondering is, is that recovery money going to purchase of that new lift? And does it help us get there faster to acquire the lift?
Mr. Mayor, Counselor, my short answer would be no. The recovery rate is really just to make operations, meet and break even.
Okay.
As obviously the ultimate goal. The facility fee is what we would use to apply towards that capital goal of replacing the lift.
Which we'll talk about here in a second. I just want to kind of get a gauge of where we're at with, Pat kind of threw out a proposal of 65%. I think I heard Jenna say 66%. So it kind of sounds like everybody is for an increase within that cost recovery. But where do we fall as a council between 65 to 70% in cost recovery?
Thanks, Mayor. I was curious if you gentlemen have like a 5-year average of where we're at with cost recovery.
I tell you, we're 60% since I've been in the city, which is a little over 6 years. So we ran about 63, 65 right in there.
Thank you. My personal opinion is that 65 isn't ambitious enough. I feel like we need to set the bar a little higher.
Did you see, Kyle, on the very last page?
Sorry, I'm losing. I was talking about, yeah, go ahead.
Page 26.
I would say, if we want to be ambitious with the cost recovery goal, we also need to be prepared to raise all these rates every time they come to us. So if we're already feeling a little hesitant about raising these rates, it doesn't make sense to me to be extra ambitious. It makes sense for me to raise it to 65 because that seems like really right about where we're feeling it is attainable for us as is. But if we raise it to 70, what we will get is a rate increase proposal before next season, which I am fine with. But I'm just saying that's what we will get. That will be the result.
I'm also fine with it, which is why I support it.
70%.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that the 65% is doable.
I'd say do
70% is going to be a bit of a stretch. I mean,
it's pushing the envelope.
And so I think kind of looking at that, I would, to me, and I'll kind of see what everybody else felt, I would feel more comfortable at 65%. Kyle, are you pretty?
I mean, I don't
on
feel
70?
super strong. I mean, it sounds like 65% is easily achievable. It sounds like we've been in that. That to me is maintaining the status quo. And so
No
I just feel like we need to be more ambitious, especially if we find out after this season that whatever heartburn we have about this, if these projections are accurate, we only have 8% demand destruction and we end up recovering all this money that we're projecting, then absolutely, I think we should be pushing it. So
What did everybody think about a compromise?
67 and a half.
Amber,
I mean,
I know you were feeling, I know
like,
you.
if we set it at 70 and they hit 68, like heads are not rolling, like it's not like we will get an explanation. Here's what we tried. This worked, this didn't. Great. I mean, so, and if we set it at 65 and they can get to 68, all good. So I don't know that it really matters. I'm looking at our memo that says there's a defined path to 100% cost recovery by fiscal year 28. There's a big gap between 60 and 100 and only a couple years to bridge that gap here. So it may be helpful to staff if we set it at 70 and then support the efforts to get to 70 if we truly want them at 100% by 28. But I mean,
if we don't get there, you could also go back and look at it and say, yeah, we can't.
I mean, I think it'll stress Zulima out, but if she's at 68 and she's not at 70, like I think she'll be bummed about that, but I won't be like, wow, what a failure, like I'll be okay. So I'm fine to move it to 70 and we try to hit it and sometimes we don't and there are circumstances that,
Or is that a good tactic to set it at a certain percentage, knowing that the council's going to come back and say, look, we just hit 65.5% or whatever. We didn't reach our 70, or do we say 65% and then, hey, we reached 68, so we can celebrate? What would be a better strategy, I guess?
I appreciate the discussion here. Without a doubt, business plans are built around the notion of trying to stretch us, so that we set goals for ourselves, try to meet those goals with a variety of strategies, not just fees every time, but a variety of strategies, and work towards that. It is not uncommon at all for a group like this to say, okay, we want you to push yourself, therefore your recovery is going to be 70%. That's not unusual or uncommon or inappropriate at all. So you'll find staff to be very supportive.
You were giving me the hairy eyeball when I said 70.
So if we go with staff proposal, then you've got the facility fee, because I'm in favor of that. You heard from user groups at our last council meeting. They're totally in favor of it, which was, I didn't expect that. And so that's why I'm saying, I think, I appreciate the destruction, modeling, but that's why I guess I'm a little more cautious, and I will not support a year after year after year rate increase. I think that's really would be foolish, and will really see destruction, because the people I've been talking to are also hockey people. So which sport, for the kids, are they going to choose? Because both are expensive. So I think the skiing is going to be ruled out.
Could I ask Randy?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Hey, Randy, you don't have to come up. So what were you saying your guys' average has been over the last 6 years, 16?
Anywhere from probably 63 to 65 for the last 6 years. 2023 season, we have an exceptional year, where we hit about 79%.
Okay.
The last 2 years.
Okay. Thank you, Randy.
Tom, do you know where Zulema got the 8% demand destruction estimate? Is it based on what we've seen historically when we've increased rates, or?
Is there any way, it's going to start snowing in here, but
Oh, you're cold.
Yeah. There's no one else.
I thought you meant if we keep talking
Somebody
about
would-
Hogan on
Yeah,
it,
that's what
we're
we're
gonna
saying.
will the snow.
I've got a jacket.
Not having one of those heat flashes.
Hold on. Or Pat, we'll take care of that in a second. Tom, would you answer that question?
There, counselors, I don't think there was deep data analytics. There wasn't at least squares regression analysis to try and determine this. To me, it was just her looking at the data and historically the number of passes. And that's where, I struggle trying to digest all the data she provided, let alone to council with all this analysis. And I think it was more based upon her kind of more bar napkin kind of calculations than a real deep data analytics dive based upon her best estimate. Because if you look at the next model, she had, I think, a 6%.
Yeah.
And so again, it's a best guess. The funny thing about this whole model and trying to decide 65 to 70 is Mother Nature. Yeah. Because we know what happened in 2023. If we get a lot of snow, this isn't a problem at all. If we have a horrible snow year, now I think we can stabilize some revenue with the passes, but I'm also very sympathetic to somebody that buys a season pass and we have a snow year like we had 2 years ago. Last year, at least we had some good luck making snow and there were some good snow days up there, but it's without a doubt, Casper is a challenging area to have a ski hill in based upon snowfall and the cyclical changes in temperature.
So I guess I just want to mention that, again, going back to Zulema's memo, she just described the impact of a catastrophic failure of that lift, which is in the back of my mind that the faster I think we can get that money raised to replace that lift, I think the better. So I'm looking at, I'm kind of between D&E, attachment D&E, in terms of mean, D has the slightly higher demand destruction. But the difference between that, the revenue from the facility fee is about $5,000 between that and attachment F. The third option, the dynamic option. So, I mean, I guess I'm just coming from, the faster we hit that recovery, we can get those recovery numbers up, or the facility fee numbers up to get to that, having the money to replace the lift. Better, I think, will be, is that, I don't know, maybe else is there, but I just want to mention that.
What's everybody thinking? So if we stay with 65, that's the safe bet. And I don't know, I guess I'd make a proposal to see if we'd stay at 65, but I'd be open up to other ideas for that, just to move that conversation along. Amber, you're good with it?
To me, that number is not the important part of this
Okay.
discussion. Like, you set it either place and I'll be
You'll be happy with it.
comfortable, yeah.
Okay, so I'll make the proposal 65%. Is everybody okay with that?
But don't make a big stink about it.
Facility fee, does everybody feel good about the facility fee for that?
At 10%.
At 10%, yeah, thank you, appreciate that. You got it. At the 10%. And then what else did you need?
Well, staff rates.
Staff rates.
I think we need to go with staff rates personally. I think that Jalima knows what she's doing.
The proposed rates from the staff.
I agree.
Is everybody okay with the proposed rates from the staff saying?
So no preseason.
Preseason.
Yeah, no preseason.
Could you get an opportunity to pay it in four installments? And the Family Fest didn't get a discount anyway.
Yeah, I would like
Just
to.
ask her.
I am really sad about this.
Would like to follow it up with some actuals on the demand destruction so that we maybe have a better gauge of that going forward.
That's a good point.
Any measurement of outcomes? I mean, this is significant enough. I would be really curious to do a deep dive after the season and see.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that enough direction, Carter?
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. Thank you for the deliberation. I appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen, for coming. We appreciate your time. Tom, thank you for present. Wasn't as good as Zulima, but it was okay.
It'll pass.
It was probably about a 65%.
Yeah, maybe 70.
Maybe a 70%. All righty, thank you guys. That was a great discussion. All right, agenda review. Carter, do you have anything for agenda review?
I do not, sir. Thank you.
So for me, I did want to bring this, I was going to do it around the table, council around the table, but I'll just bring it now since we're talking about agenda. Carter and I and the vice mayor talked, and Eric talked in leadership about the possibility of having a meeting next week. The reason being work session, because we have a lot on that Carter needs to go over with us as far as he's getting ready to be leaving. There's some things to tie up. Understandably, everybody was probably planning on not having that, so understanding that you may be out of town or you had plans. If that being said, if we can get 5 people, then we probably wouldn't have it. But who was able to make it and being able to come to that work session?
What time?
Same time, before 30 for a work session.
I do enjoy my 5th Tuesday. But I could make a meeting.
I could probably, I'll be out of town, but I could probably.
Sounds like we got a form.
So sounds like more than 5. So why don't we plan on it? I know we've been pushing hard and been working on, executive sessions on personnel, and I know it's been a lot. But we have a limited time, I think, with Carter. So if we can do that, and we'll try to keep it at a minimum for that meeting. Try to get everybody out by 4:45.
What?
Can you do it in 15 minutes?
I will
Put it in
make
an
it
email
work.
then.
1 minute per subject, per topic. Thank you, everyone. Does anybody have anything on the agenda review they'd like to discuss?
Are you doing around the table? Or?
Here in a few minutes. Yeah, I just wanted to see if anybody had anything on the agenda for next week or in the coming weeks, rather. Okay. All right, council around the table. Amber, I'll start with you.
Okay, let's see here. I had LGBTQ advisory committee meeting on Friday. We discussed working on our next informational piece with Casper Cares. That we're just waiting on some internal clarification on how best to describe the topic that we're putting out, but that'll be coming out soon. Priority-based budgeting meeting yesterday with the assembled task force where we worked to reconcile the council's prioritization of the priorities, goals, the prioritization of the priorities, and with the feedback we got from the community. So we'll be presumably bringing that slightly updated set of priorities to the full group at some point, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
And then I toured the health department today, under construction, clipping along, it seems like, and on time and under budget, they say. So that's great news there. It's a really nice facility, so it'll be a great asset once it is done. And I think that's probably all I've got for you today.
Thanks, Amber.
Yep, that's-
Matt, do you have anything today? No, I don't. Thank you. Michael Bond.
Not much. I did the Hyatt tour last week with Fleur. I appreciated that. It's a beautiful facility. I was less than enamored with their choice of location, but it would have been nice to have the Halo, ready to go to locate it up there, because they tried to have a view of the mountains, but you see the back of the post office first, and then you see the mountains. Yeah. But still, it's in a great facility and good asset to the community. So, and then almost Coalition tomorrow, and wow.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. Jenna, do you have anything?
Just to remind people about the municipal band concerts and follow them on Facebook. They did have a concert number 6 was on the 17th. They had a practice that got finished in time before the rain came, but just to support the municipal band and their concerts. And then I did the health department tour today too. Beautiful building, and it's a lot of space, much. Anna's beside herself of excitement. It's surreal still, so it's nice. And then Ford Wyoming Center tour tomorrow. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Randy, do you have anything?
I don't have a whole lot. I was also at the priority-based budgeting, so I'm not going to go over that. And I had the opioid committee, but my chairman takes notes, so I always just put that on him. So. He's our secretary.
Oh, it's secretary and
And
president.
chairman.
And the chair.
We put him to work. He was really agreeable that day.
Multitasking.
As long as we promise to call him Mr. Chairman, we'll take notes.
The only.
So.
It's the only way.
So I'll let Mr. Chairman handle that. That's all I have.
Pat, do you have anything?
It was a busy weekend, that's for sure. And I do think on the Irish Festival show, I've got more stuff to share with you on that, but maybe we'll do that in a couple of weeks at our first council meeting. But that was, she brought in some excellent entertainment, knowledgeable people, and first class event. And I think it's really something that the city can grow with. And then the outdoor rec deal at David Street Station on Saturday, that was good. And but yeah, but anyway, today we had visit Casper, and that was a long but good meeting. And I've got some stuff for you, but I'll pass that out at the next one. And then I did have a couple of quick questions in regards to the article in Cowboy State Daily today about some of the folks that ICE is sending up to us. I think it said 44 detainees up at the detention center. But what really got me is that they agreed to $95.
That stuck out to me too.
And how much are we paying?
147.
So.
Maybe 140 now.
So in.
Way more than 95.
That's slightly down, yeah, this year.
Yeah, so I didn't know if that's anything that the chief could help us with. I don't know if I was talking loud enough for you, Chief, but.
Chief, I don't know if you heard any of that.
I did, thank you, Mayor and Councilor. I don't have any seat at the table when it comes to setting those rates with the federal partners. That is something that the Sheriff's Department would enter into a contract. They're responsible for housing prisoners. They house other federal prisoners throughout the state that come there through other various agencies. So I found that out the same way you did when I received a text message from Captain Dabney this morning with that article.
Wondering what the heck. So it did look like, I mean, I don't know if there's a way to talk to the sheriff, but it did look like Sweetwater County they had originally quoted like $66 and they're in the process of raising it to 120. But I don't.
That'd be a conversation with the sheriff, do you think?
Yes, sir. Mayor, yes.
And who should possibly, I mean, is that part of the Hall of Justice? I mean, but it might be too late at that point.
What do you think? Is this a fight to go into, to negotiate? What do you think? I guess I kind of want to try to look at the whole thing.
I definitely think the purview of the Hall of Justice Advisory Committee, or that includes a discussion for the detention center, is a really good forum for that, and deserves some discussion. I think that's a fair point.
I don't think we meet again until, is it September?
September, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. So, but.
I agree. Yeah.
Who's the chairman of that committee?
Pardon?
Also Kyle, who's chairman and secretary.
Vice chair, everything else.
So you're gonna handle this then, right?
No,
Who's the chairman?
Hall of Justice, I think Dave North is, wouldn't you say that, Mike?
I think so. I don't remember. I'd have to look at my.
Are you asking who it is?
Yeah.
Counselor? I believe it's Mr. North.
So I guess
Our liaisons can
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
inquire with Commissioner North.
We'll chat with Mr. North.
Yeah, I'd put the ball in your guys' court from the committee and just reach out and maybe start making a plan towards that.
And then just one other thing that I got from the Health Collective was this calling all vendors for lacrosse out violence with the Boys and Girls Club and other people. But I guess they have like 350 kids signed up. And I wondered if, the police department might have a booth. I think it's all around trying to deal with the combined with mental agility training and violence prevention strategies, helping youth athletes thrive on and off the field.
Eric said he could speak to that.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, that is a Central Wyoming Counseling Center initiative. Jim Kauser is heading that up. It is in fact to get youth involved, and I think the intent is to have booths and information for parents of youth in the community on what resources are available, those type of things. I know Zulima has worked with a Central Wyoming Counseling Center because they will be using some city park facilities on that, so she probably has more details around that. I know that they did put a call out through the Trust Base Camp app for entities to have booths and present information. So I think that could be a discussion we could have internally if there's the police department or other departments of the city wanted to have a presence. That certainly would be something they could look into.
Do you think this is an outgrowth of like the Blue Heart?
Mayor, Councilor, Jim Kauser had this idea. He's seen it in other areas of the country. He's partnering with some organization. They provide the equipment, and it's like, my understanding, there'll be a day of training on what lacrosse is, and then there'll be some games and athletic competitions that same weekend. So I can certainly get some more information for council.
I mean, I don't know if it's something that is relevant for the police department or for others parks. I don't know. So that's it. Sorry.
Nope, we're good. Thanks, Pat. Kyle?
Thanks, Mayor. Had a podcast with Eric Lindemood at Payrock Financial and Wyoming Business Spotlight last Wednesday. Talked about property taxes, municipal budgeting, life of a counselor, etc. He's always a really good host and asks really thoughtful questions. So I appreciate that opportunity, and you'll likely see that episode published sometime in the next few weeks. In the meantime, I would encourage you to check out his other ones. Publishes one every other week or so, and they're always really good. We didn't have a Metro Animal Shelter Task Force meeting last Wednesday just due to lack of items on our agenda. It's pretty much just, efforts are underway to rebuild the shelter, and after we selected the design firm a few weeks back, so just continuing on with that. Thankfully, because they lost power recently for about a half day, the backup generator did not come on, which is a concern when it's really cold or when it's really hot, as it has been. So they're going to be filing a warranty claim to get that fixed. Owner surrenders are thankfully down, although I did see someone dropped off 40 hamsters to the Humane Society, so hopefully they can 40 plus.
And then they were having babies, so it ended up
Yeah.
40, like 3.
Hopefully those guys can find homes for all those little guys.
So if you need a hamster.
At 4
right?
a.m.
Yeah, if you want a hamster, call, who is it, Craig, over at the Humane Society?
2 for everybody.
They've graduated a couple waves of volunteers, so it sounds like, historically Metro's kind of gone through ebbs and flows of its volunteer base, and it sounds like it's kind of on the upswing now, and they're getting a lot of really good people willing to volunteer at the shelter, so that's really great. And I appreciate Jody sending out her weekly reports, even despite us not having a meeting, so that we can all just kind of stay in touch with what's going on up there. Had a Casper Housing Authority meeting last Thursday. They recently took over management of St. Anthony's Manor downtown on, I don't know what that cross, it's over by the 1224 Club. And then also the Holy, 6th Street. Yeah, across from Grims and Harkins, I think.
Yep.
So they took over management of that facility, and then also Holy Trinity Manor in Cheyenne, who was being managed by Catholic Charities out of Colorado. They're both senior housing facilities, and the tenants are very excited about the change. It'll help, I think, to have a management company based here in Casper, obviously for St. Anthony's, but even Casper is closer to Cheyenne than wherever it was the Archdiocese is based out of in Colorado. They're continuing to renovate their Overland Trail property over there behind the, by Mike Lansing Field and by the, whatever the Ramada is called these days, I forget. I'm sure the new owners will appreciate that comment. Yeah, Riverside, whatever the heck you call yourselves. The AmeriCorps members had their last week on site at Urban Thistle last week. They ended up building a pergola. They painted 2 murals, including the new sign for that complex. Built some geodesic domes for indoor growing and some other stuff. They, Housing Authority had some young interns during this time who were kind of mentored by the Conservation Corps members, and it sounded like that was a really powerful experience for those kids. So I'm hoping that we can not only bring back the AmeriCorps members in the future, but it sounds like there's intent to kind of expand the youth outreach component of that, because you got these 20 to 25-year-old-ish AmeriCorps members that have a really strong work ethic, are really passionate about public service, and so it is really beneficial for them, but also for the youth in our community to kind of match them up and get some good mentorship opportunities. So it sounded like that went really well.
I can't remember who paid
The Zimmerman Family
Zimmerman,
Foundation.
thank you.
And they actually ended up, so they paid the $20,000 to get them all here in the first place. And I think they extended another grant to keep the leaders, a small contingency of those folks that wanted to stay longer. So I think they went above and beyond the original 20,000. So yeah, again, another thanks to Zimmerman Family Foundation for making that all possible this year in, spite of budget cuts on a national level. Had the opportunity to speak to the Casper Young Professionals Group last Thursday. They are meeting quarterly now, it sounds like, and really enjoyed the opportunity to talk to their group. It's made up of 18 to 39-year-old professionals who are looking to improve both their personal and professional networks. There was a lot of faces I have not seen before, so I was really preaching the gospel of getting that demographic plugged in to our governing boards, our commissions, our task forces, and so we'll see if that yields any returns. We had an opioid settlement oversight committee meeting yesterday. Council can expect to vote on a finalized RFP, hopefully at our August 5th meeting. And so long as we and the county both approve that RFP at that time, we will release the RFP on the 6th and keep the application period open until September 3rd. And then we will meet, I believe our next meeting is going to be September 15th though, September 15th after we receive those applications. We'll get them ahead of time, but September 15th is when the opioid committee is going to meet again and kind of go over those applications and decide which ones kind of have the most merit. As a reminder for us as a group, the city has about 1.25 million in funds we've received, and the county has about 1.34. So our total funding for these efforts are going to be in the neighborhood of 2.6 million, and we will be able to accept multiple proposals. So if we get a $500,000 proposal and a $1.4 million proposal, we can cobble them together to kind of achieve what we think are going to get the best outcomes. And then lastly,
Can I ask you a question about
yes,
that?
please.
Is it sort of an open call for projects that are related to this, or were there specific sort of projects that were set forward and you're looking for people to execute them?
Yeah, so the RFP is fairly broad, but it also, those monies have kind of a narrow framework that they need to be dispersed within. And so the RFP, it kind of keeps it as broad as possible. But yeah, it can be treatment, it can be prevention, it can be harm reduction, it can be pretty wide variety of, so I'm hoping and I expect to get a pretty diversified list of proposals. If you have something to add,
Mayor,
feel free.
Council, just related, there's been a slew of additional settlements that have been coming through. So this afternoon, received some documentation to sign on to the Purdue Pharma settlement. So I'll be vetting those in the next day or two. And then bringing them forward to council for approval. I don't know the amounts or anything, but there's that one, and then there's another universal settlement that incorporates a number of different companies. So there'll be more money coming, but like it has been the entire time, when it shows up, it'll show up, and we don't know how much it'll be. So
count your chickens before the roost kind of thing.
Could I ask too, on those settlement monies? So is this going to be like tobacco? Or I've read some stories where, it's kind of, some of them are one and done. And so do we need to stretch this over, say, a 5-year period or?
Mayor, Councilor, yeah, it's a mix. So a lot of these settlement agreements say that these companies will pay X number of dollars over, say, an 18-year period. Some of them choose then to just pay it all up in one lump sum. There's so many of them, and we're part of 2 statewide universal settlements with a number of companies. And so it's been really kind of opaque to ascertain how much the city can expect on a regular basis over any given period of time. And so when we first started talking about kind of the effort to push the dollars out, it's let's just count on cash on hand, so to speak. And then as more monies come in, then that committee can decide what to do with it. But so it's a mix. It's not as, I think, long-term as tobacco, probably not as regular or that we could expect a set amount at a given interval. It's just lots of different.
Would you be better off trying to spread it out, you know, instead of spending 2.6 right up front. Just take half of that or something. And
I'll take that.
Yeah, please do. Vice Chair.
So we are actually going to offer that opportunity. We do not have to, we're not going to give them a deadline. You have to spend your proposed amount in this time frame. So if they were to propose, we would like this much to go over 5 years, that will be an option in their RFP. Their proposal. So they don't have to say, I'll spend it in a year or 2 years. We will offer that opportunity for in a lump sum, but if they want to say, I need it over 6 years, this is what we're going to do, that is an option. We don't have a deadline requirement for when they spend it.
Carter said he has something.
Just to be clear here, this is one of the items we plan to bring forward next week in your new work session. So that we can indeed get your approval with the RFP and continue this ball rolling.
So why don't we go ahead and table, and then, so we can have more to talk about
There you go.
next time.
Look, now our meeting can be longer. Thanks, Carter.
Appreciate the direction. And then lastly, just want to make sure people are aware, there's a North Platte Park Utilities Project, public forum this week, Thursday, the 24th at 6 p.m. in the Summit Room of the Ford Wyoming Center. And that's in regards to the utility project for the North Platte, the Halo project. So public forum for folks to learn about it and give their feedback. 6 p.m. Thursday, Summit Room, Fort Wyoming Center. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I was also at the priority-based budgeting. I just want to say I was really pleased at how the community is pretty much in line with what our priorities are. They like our priorities. We'd like Amber said, we made some tweaks and we'll be presenting those, but it was for the most part pretty much in line with the community. So, and then we had our Natrona County government breakfast. Had a great discussion there with the other mayors in the area, and I thought it was a great discussion. Always enjoy visiting with them and comparing what's happening in the communities. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Just a couple items for me. I did speak and welcome everybody at the opening ceremonies for the Celtic Festival, which was fantastic. I got to stay for a little bit. Music was pretty amazing, the group that I listened to. And so it sounded like it was a great time, and enjoyed speaking and welcoming everybody. The only other thing I have is that looking forward to the swearing in for Chief coming up on July 25th, which is this Friday, 4 o'clock at Wheeler Hall. So looking forward to that. If you can make it, that'd be fantastic. All right, that's all I got.
Target mission. Wheeler Hall.
I don't know what kind of deal they made with
Really, really draw that big of a crowd.
community.
Absolutely.
The community's invited, so you never know. Well, I would imagine there's going to be a very big turnout.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. All right, so I now call the 2025 special council meeting to order. All members are present. Chair to entertain a motion to by minute action. Excuse, geez, please. Let me start over. I now call the July 22nd, 2025 council meeting to order. All members are present. Good Lord, like I've never done it before in my life. A notice of an executive session to take place at this date and during this meeting was given. We have matters to discuss regarding personnel. Therefore, the chair to entertain a motion to adjourn to an executive session, and at the conclusion of the executive session to reconvene the special meeting solely for the purposes of adjourning the special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
By the Vice Mayor, seconded by Pollock. There are a majority of members present, and a motion to adjourn into an executive session has been moved and seconded. This motion requires a 2/3 majority of the council present. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. A greater than 2/3 majority of the council present voted in favor of the motion. We are hereby adjourned into an executive session. Thank you, everyone.